Hello, everybody. What's going on this beautiful Thursday, January 11th, 2024? So today I'm going to be addressing a comment regarding to my previous video that I did on epistemology and supreme mathematics. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about why we need universal knowledge as African descended people. I'm going to put it out there. So I'm addressing this individual. This individual have been on my platform before. I'm gonna call his name out. King Hercules. All right, I'm going to address his comment because he felt that I am trying to be Eurocentric or whatever the case may be. All right, so I'm going to read his comments and I am going to address the comments. So I see that I have to be put in a position where I gotta address some people's comments, and I try to avoid that as much as possible. But because there's some misunderstanding. Maybe this person think that I'm trying to make somebody something they are not. Okay. I don't think he understand the nature of my video or what I was trying to do. So in my previous video, I was addressing the supreme mathematics, which is knowledge, cipher, knowledge. So knowledge born knowledge. All right. And that basically describes epistemology, because epistemology deals with the theory of knowledge. It don't matter what type of knowledge it is. It deals with the theory of knowledge, the knowledge itself, where it comes from, the origin of it. You know what I'm saying? Deal with the research behind it. What's the meaning? Okay. So when you deal with epistemology, you're studying the knowledge itself. You're studying the knowledge itself. All right. You dealing with it don't matter where it comes from, whether it be history, whether it be science, whether it be social study, whether it be philosophy, it don't matter. You're dealing with the knowledge in itself. All right, that's what epistemology is. Okay, so yes, this is a Western terminology. All right, however, we speak English. We have to take heed as African descended people in the diaspora that we're in the Western culture. All right. So we have to make our knowledge more universal. We just can't be confined to just one thing. All right. So yes, I advocate to deal with Black studies, African history. All right. That is a must. That's supposed to be on top of the list. That is supposed to be top of the list. However, we cannot just limit ourselves to just dealing with those subjects. We have to be able to deal with other cultures, right? We have to study other history. Why? Because we are in a melting pot. Okay. We are in not only a melting pot, but we also work with different people from various culture. All right. So we need to study not just African history and African American history, but we also got study Western philosophy, Western culture. Where did they get their ideas from? So we can be aware of these things, right? And we also got to study Eastern philosophy and where their culture come from and their ideologies and things like that. So by us being in the Western culture, we must study the Western ideology to figure out where's this origin coming from. How did it come into existence? Why does it come into existence? What is the general purpose of it? See, the problem is most people who have been in the conscious community for too long, they are taught to just limit themselves. Right? Even our great teachers, ancestors, have taught us to go beyond and study world history, study various forms of knowledge. That's way you can become aware and you know. You understand? So it's not about trying to be Eurocentric or Afrocentric. It's about bringing awareness. That's the purpose of having knowledge, is to have awareness. All right? So let me just go ahead and let me address the comment. So brother King Hercules, that's what he called himself, King Hercules. He said, wait, hold up, sister. You have way too much RBG behind you to be pushing Yurugu philosophy. Okay, I'm not pushing no. First of all, just because I have RBG does not mean that I am going to limit myself on knowledge. The Black Panthers didn't limit themselves on knowledge. C.R. James did not limit himself on knowledge. Walter Rodney did not limit himself. So what my RBG got to do with me dealing with general knowledge as a whole? What does that have to do with it? So you telling me because I have RBG that I'm supposed to just limit myself? I'm not supposed to deal with universal knowledge? I'm not supposed to be aware about other things? For anything, by us being in the Yurugu culture, right? By us being in the European culture, why would we not study what these Europeans are doing? They study us. They study our history. They know what we do. Why we can't study what they do? Why we can't study philosophy? Huh? We speak English. For last time I checked, a vast majority of us came up out of America, right? We were born here in this country called America. Many of us have not been born in an African society. Let's be honest. We don't know what it's like to actually live in the African culture because we never lived in the African culture. So to say that, well, we just gotta just study African culture and period and nothing else, that's limiting yourself. You gotta study every culture. You gotta study the culture of your ancestors that came up out of Africa. And you also gotta study the culture that you live in, that you were born and raised in. Many of us was born and raised in the Western culture. So we gotta study why the Europeans teach the way they do, why they do the things they do, why they have these particular ideologies. So that way we can get a better understanding and we can be able to have a clear conscience. And we gotta look at, we're playing the game of survival. So the question becomes, well, how do we survive in a culture like this? Yes, learn African culture. Yes, learn African principles. But you can't fully practice an African culture in a Western society. It's very hard because we don't live in an African society. We live in a Western culture. So the most that we can do is take African principles, African ideologies, and help incorporate it while we in this culture. And the most that we can do is also study and learn about this particular culture from its history all the way on down to the current. We must study these things. No, you're not going to know everything. That is a fact. You're not going to know everything. But there's things that you're going to have to learn that is necessary. So with me talking about epistemology is not pushing Yurugu philosophy. It's basically explaining the theory of knowledge. And the theory of knowledge is dealing with the study of knowledge. And that's what I was explaining about the Supreme Mathematics. Knowledge, cipher knowledge. That means that you're giving life to knowledge by studying the knowledge. By doing the knowledge. So you're doing the knowledge to learn the knowledge. So basically that's what epistemology dealing with, is doing the knowledge, learning the knowledge. That's all. You're learning the knowledge. So it don't matter what subject matter it is. It don't matter what field of study it is. You're doing the knowledge. You're studying the origin of it. So if this person would have looked at what epistemology was and then came back and watched my video, then they'll be like, okay, I see what she's coming from. I see what she's trying to say. But no, this person jumped the gun and basically accused me of trying to push the Yurugu philosophy on people or trying to make people Eurocentric. No, we already Eurocentric, if you want to be honest, by living in America, being raised in America. How much more Eurocentric can't you get? If you was brought up in American culture, you're Eurocentric. Because to be American is basically to be European. It's to be Western. So even those who claim to be African centered, they still carry on Western ideology themselves. They still carry on Western philosophy themselves because that's all they pretty much know. They was raised in American culture. Let me see. Hey, shout out to my friend right here. Shout out to you, brother. The brother put, as black people, we need to study planetary science as well. Here to support you. Absolutely. We got to. We got to study all those things. So, again, I am all for dealing with African history, but we cannot place limitation on ourselves. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me go on to the next comment. That's going against everything you're trying to represent. No, it's not. It says the message that you're pushing us, that Eurocentric ideology and philosophy are the foundation. I never said that Eurocentric and the ideology and philosophy is the foundation. But if we're going to talk about the fact that we're in the Western culture, that's what we're dealing with. That's what you live in the Western culture. You were born and raised here all your life. So for anything, that is the foundation. Because this is all we pretty much know is Western. So I'm not pushing that Eurocentric ideology is the way, it's the foundation for us black people, but I'm just saying we live in a Western culture. So we would need to study about these particular ideologies and find out where they come from and why they exist and how. And so that way we can be able to think. That way we can be able to critically analyze. That way we can be able to ask questions. That way we can be able to know that this is not for us. Because how you going to know what's for you if you don't study? And then he put, we're trying to move away from that BS to create better African people. Okay, well, what are you doing? Exactly. What are you doing to move away? Exactly. What are you doing? How are you going about moving away? And in order to help better African people, we got to understand we in a society that is bringing all odds against us. I guess you can sit here and say that our African ancestors that came before us, that pushed for us to have an education in this damn country, I guess they were what they want. What they less African? They less African. What is you saying? I'm trying to understand what. So the people that came before us that pushed for us to get an education, that pushed for us to get into the STEM program, that pushed for us to get into social work field, activism, right? I guess they was trying to be Urugu, right? I guess they was trying to be Eurocentric, right? So as people in America, we shouldn't push ourselves to be better. We shouldn't push ourselves to be able to learn various information. So what we gotta limit ourselves. So it's okay when the Europeans study your history and know about your people, about what your people done, but you can't study nothing what they did, right? We can't study nothing about their history. We can't study about other cultures, right? We can't study about African cultures, right? We can't study about African American culture. We can't study about European culture. We can't study about Asian culture. We just got to be stuck in a box and not try to advance ourselves, right? I'm trying to see. Maybe somebody can enlighten me. What exactly am I doing wrong? Because if you look around you, we are already in a Eurocentric society. I mean, look at the media. Look what media is pushing out there to us. So for anything, I'm pushing us to study and analyze and learn about these individuals, these people, and learn about our people and know the difference between their culture and the culture of our ancestors. That's what I'm doing. It get interesting. Oh, this gets very interesting. We can't go back to our African selves if we continue to embrace Yurugu's philosophical thoughts. What you mean we can't go back to our African selves? You ain't gonna get. Let me tell you something. You're already African through your DNA. You are already African through your DNA. And again, you're not going to be able to practice all of the tradition of your ancestors before they got here to America. You're not going to be able to practice all that because you don't live in a culture that is based on those principles. Okay? That is based on that custom. It's a great thing here in the South. They preserved a lot of the African custom as much as possible. But you can't go back to being 100% traditional. We don't live in that society anymore. We are the long lost children of Africa. Okay, we are the long lost children of Africa. We've been away from Africa for so long. If we was to go back over there, it'll become very foreign to us. Because we're not used to the customs that they practice over there. We're used to the Western customs, right? We're used to the Western way of life, the Western way of living. So how much more African can't you get? You're African genetically. Regardless whether you deal with Eurocentric ideology, Afrocentric ideology, or whatever type of ideology, you're African through DNA, through your bloodline, through your lineage. It's already in you. It's already in you. Oh my God. Then he tried to be sarcastic. Okay, he put, "Oh my beautiful, beautiful sister." This is why I don't like, bro. Don't try to be sarcastic. Don't be sarcastic. If we're gonna have a dialogue, let's have a dialogue, but don't try to be arrogant. This is what I don't like right here. He said, "Oh my beautiful, beautiful sister." You're not understanding European cultural imperialism. Yes, I do. I talk about it all the time. I do understand cultural imperialism. You just don't understand what it means to have thorough knowledge. I have an understanding of that. I talk about capitalism. That's pretty much cultural imperialism, even though it's dealing with economics. Hmm? I talk about social behavior in this country. Now, you don't go into the root of how we as Black people got into the predicament that we are today, as far as the crimes in our community or whatnot. It's because of European and cultural imperialism. That's why we are in the condition that we are. That's why me and us living in public housing projects, redlining. This is why we have lack of cultural values, right? We have lack of rite of passage because of cultural imperialism by Europeans. So you can miss me with that. You don't understand cultural imperialism because again, we live in a Western culture, so therefore there is cultural imperialism being brought upon us. We was As a matter of fact, we have been indoctrinated to follow cultural imperialism more than we learned about African history. So tell me, what is it that I'm missing? Maybe I'm not understanding the way you want me to understand it. But if we look at the crimes, we look at the poverty rate in our community, we look at the behavioralism, we understand that all predicates from cultural imperialism. When we look at slavery, right, and how we were brought here into this country, that was not only based on economics, but also cultural imperialism, because the European wanted to make the slave into what he wants the slave to be. Not just be African, but be Eurocentric. Be that broken African. Brother Ngozi said the best. He said this. He said, you was created as an African in the slave master's backyard. The white man created you in his backyard. That means when you was enslaved in this country, right? When you was enslaved in this country, your ancestors were forced to breed with each other, or the slave master breeded with your ancestors. The slave master breeded with your ancestors to create more slaves. What do you think the purpose? What do you think it means to be a slave? Not just physically, but mentally. So through mental enslavement, right? In order to understand why we in the condition that we in, why we under mental enslavement, we must study the origin of it. We must study who brought us here. We must figure out why they made us the way they want us to be, why we got this way of thinking, right? If we study under his school system, right, we should study, well, where is the philosophy? Where did that philosophy come from? Right? But let's continue. And he said Amos Wilson and Marimba Ani taught us about this. Yeah, well, let me tell you something. Amos Wilson also teaches us that we should have knowledge too. He also teaches us that we should not be limited ourselves. Dr. John Henry Clark taught us that we should have knowledge about world history, global history. I bet you didn't know that. So Dr. Amos Wilson, who had a degree in psychology, right? When he studied psychology, he didn't just deal with just African or Black studies or African studies, right? He also dealt with European ideology. He had to study the European. So you're telling me that Dr. Amos Wilson and Dr. Marimba Ani did not study European ideologies when they was in college? They didn't study European psychology? Because if they didn't, then they would never been able to got their degree. So they had to study both. They had to study African philosophy, Africana philosophy, also African psychology, African American psychology, and Western psychology. They had to have all these knowledge in order to obtain a degree. They had to get those knowledge in order to teach us the things about European philosophy. They had to. So what you're saying, it does not make sense. They had to study the Urugu philosophy, the Urugu psychology. They had to study those things in order to teach the people. That's why Dr. Amos Wilson was able to teach the community about European philosophy, European psychology, because he had to study it. He was able to teach about African psychology. That was his field of study. So you kind of contradicted yourself. I guess maybe you ain't never been to college. I guess you didn't graduate from high school. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, bro. But it's detrimental to just tell black people not to study this, not to study that, when knowledge itself is universal. Okay, now watch this. You would think that knowledge is universal and that everyone knows that the derivative of x is 1, but that's not how it goes. Knowledge is universal. It's people like you that's just only saying yourself under limitation, that just refuse to deal with universal knowledge. Now, again, you're not going to know everything because in life it's impossible to know every single thing, but you got to study all that you can, to study the most important values, the most important information that is needed for your everyday survival, for you to be able to think. Because the goal is to survive. The goal is to be able to have critical thinking. In life, you're going to learn as much as possible. It's not about trying to be something that you're not. It's not about trying to assimilate to somebody else's culture. That's not what it's about. Okay? So, what? This gets interesting. Think about this. Did our ancestors needed Plato or Aristotle to draw their conclusion? No. Of course, they did not need Plato and Aristotle. Okay? Because they had their own cultural practice. However, when they got here to America, they had to learn by Aristotle and Plato, depending on what school system they went to, right? So for those our African ancestors, when they got here to this Western culture, they had to be exposed to studying about Aristotle and Plato. Depends on what they was going to school for. Now, but during that time period prior to slavery, no, they didn't have to, because they had their own cultural practice. So it was not necessary. It was not needed. You know what I'm saying? However, when they got here to America and they started going to the American school system and they started going to these universities, they seen that it was a prerequisite. So more than likely they was going to study about Aristotle and Plato. But, let me enlighten y'all on something. The Western philosophy and principle, guess where they get their guess where the origin come from? Guess what the origin of Western philosophy and Western knowledge and Western principle really come from? It come from the Roman Greco society. It coming from the Roman Greco culture. That's where it comes from. So if you really get into the origin about this Western culture, especially here in the United States, you will see that the philosophy and principle goes back to what the Roman Greco society. We talking about politics, we talking about the science, we talking about the language. That all traces back to Roman Greco. If you really study the origin. And if you want to study about the political system, especially, a lot of the influence come from Aristotle and Plato. A lot of the influence come from Aristotle and Plato. Especially when we talk about political system, we talk about Republican, we talk about Democrat. That came from the Greek society, because they had democracy. They had what was called direct democracy. Here in America, it's called representative democracy, but that's where the origin came from. That's where the idea came from those people. Mm. So, what are you saying? I mean, what are you trying to say? I'm just trying to understand. Oh boy. It says they the they way you're setting it up to say your ideology, your central ideology or philosophy is the foundation one must start to gain knowledge. I didn't say that. I never said that. I never said that. I never said that that's the foundation. I never said that. That is not the way I'm setting it up. And so you're lying on me. You're lying on me saying that I'm setting it up as a way to say that that's the foundation. No, I did not. I never said that. I never said that. I never tried to insinuate that. Let's not make up lies here. Again, I had to reference Dr. Ani because she pointed out in Uruguay how we're dumped into using the Eurocentric worldview as the foundation of knowledge. Okay. You know why? Because we have been indoctrinated. So we got to figure out, well, why are we indoctrinated with Eurocentric ideology? And did she study Eurocentric ideology herself? Did she study Eurocentric philosophy? She had to if she was going to get her degree in psychology, right? So we have to figure out, why are we studying this? Why are we indoctrinated? How did it come to that point? Whew. Okay, now let's again. What else he said? That's all I'm saying. That's the one thing I don't like about Unc and his team. Okay, well that's brother Unc. I'm not brother Unc. I understand that you don't like Unc and all of that, but I'm not brother Unc. All right, I'm not his team. He's something totally different. Okay, they do what they do over there. I do what I do over here. So, you take that up with Unc. Whatever situation you got with Unc, you take that up with him. I'm not Unc. I'm Tiffany. All right. So, however you feel about Brother Unc and what they do over there in pseudo killers or real black atheists or whatever, that's on you. Okay. That's how you feel. Now, if you was watching, there's some things that I opposed about pseudo killers and what they were doing. There were some things that I addressed about pseudo killers. And I had my disagreement on, if you've seen the videos that I have done. But to try to make that comparison like I'm trying to be them, I'm not trying to be them. I don't want to be them. I'm not knocking them. I appreciate them bringing education and enlightenment, but I'm not trying to be Unc. I don't want to be Unc. I don't want to be the pseudo killers. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be that. Because I had my disagreement with them, and I still have my disagreement with them as far as their approach and how they do certain things. So there's no way that I'm trying to do what Unc is doing. I'm doing what I do, and he gonna do what he do. So, all right. They talk all this pro-black shit, but use Eurocentric ideology in their arguments. Again, I'm not Unc. I'm not Unc. I have a purpose on my platform. There's a reason why I do what I do. Again, whatever issue you got with Unc and what they do over there, that's your issue. Don't bring that shit to me. Because I'm not him. I'm not pseudo killers. All right? I do speak on African history. If you looked at my channel, I don't mind speaking about African American history, because that's what I mostly deal with on my channel. So maybe you feel some kind of way about me. I don't know what it is. Maybe, I mean, if you feel some kind of way about me, that's your problem, not mine. That's your issue that you have. You're not obligated to watch me. You're not obligated to support my channel. I'm sorry that you feel that kind of way, but I do what I do over here. You know what I'm saying? I don't have that type of popularity like Unc and Pseudo Killers. I'm not trying to do what they do. I don't sit around and debate back and forth about the same old topics over and over again. I don't do that. I don't sit around and do that. All right? I don't sit around and debate about Hebrews and Christians and Egyptologies and things like that. I don't do that. I don't do that here. I step away from that arena because that's not where my alley is at. That's not where my lane is. I don't debate about Egyptology or Hebrew or Christian anti and all. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? And they also deal with science, right? Yes, I do understand that they do deal with some Eurocentric. They deal with a lot of Eurocentric stuff because we live in a Eurocentric society, and they are very dismissive of African centered philosophy and African centered ideology. They are pretty dismissive of that. Not every last one of them, but there are those that are. So I am aware of that myself. But I don't know how you got that conclusion of me trying to be like the pseudo killers. I don't know where that come from. I don't even know how that even got into existence. Because I'm not trying to be them. I'm not. I do what I do. I don't sit around and go back and debate about the same old stuff. I don't do that. You know what I mean? My main thing here, I like to deal with not only history, African history, but I also like to deal with general topics. And also I like to deal with philosophy. I like to deal with psychology, sociology type of stuff. That's what I do over here. So I would talk about subject that doesn't really get discussed very often, doesn't get put on the platform. Okay? All right? That's what I like to do. I like to go outside of the average conversation or the average talk and bring various subject matters into my platform. That's what I do. I don't, nah. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where that come from. That whole situation. That's something that you personally have an issue with him about. That's something that you need to take with him. You need to address to him. Go take that up with him. Go take that up with pseudo killers, real black atheists, Amara Squad. Go take that up with them. Whatever your issue may be, because I ain't got nothing to do with that. All right. So, anyways, that's it. That's all. And I hate that I have to come here and clear up the misconception, the misunderstanding that people have because they're so rooted into limitation. I hate that I have to do that, but it seemed like I got to because it seemed like my back was pushed against the wall and I was forced to have to speak up on a subject which I thought that maybe people was going to understand, maybe people was going to get, but I got accused of something that is not the case. So it seemed like this person tried to jack me up and throw me against the wall, metaphorically. So now I got to come back and try to clear my position, clear the whole purpose, because it's getting misconception. It's getting like misunderstanding. And it's sad that I gotta do that, especially with my own people. It's really sad that my own people would try to do me in such a way, try to make me out to something that I'm not. But it is what it is. I guess that comes with the territory. It's whatever. But anyways, you all have a great one. And I appreciate you guys for watching my channel. Thank you, Dark Lake. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting my page. And until next time, peace and power and elevation. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and also share the videos. And another thing, yes, I could be pro-black. I am. But I'm also pro-knowledge too. Again, I could be pro-black, but also pro-knowledge. Now, if you don't like the fact that I am pro-knowledge and pro-black, then that's a you problem. That's something that you got to deal with. That's your issue, not mine. But I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to be that pro-black person. I'm going to continue to push for knowledge for my people. I'm going to continue to make sure that our people gain universal knowledge. I'm going to make sure that our people learn about the history of our ancestors here in the diaspora and in Africa. I'm going to make sure that. I am going to push for that. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to get all the answer. I'm not going to get to every detail, but guess what? I'm going to do that. So whether people like it or not, whether a person approve, disapprove, I appreciate the comment. I really do. I appreciate the comment. I appreciate this individual reaching out and expressing themselves to me. I really do. Because it gives me the opportunity to actually get on here and speak more about the things that I'm doing and my purpose and my goal. So I appreciate that person. I appreciate you, King Hercules, for reaching out. Now, if you want to come back on this platform and you want to explain your proposition, maybe so that way I can get a better understanding, because you might feel like I have a misunderstanding of where you're coming from. So if you want to explain your proposition, you can reach out to me. It's no problem. I can get you on this platform and we can have the conversation as long as it's going to be respectful. As long as it's a respectful dialogue, it's no problem. We can talk about what we agree to disagree with. But I will say this. You can feel how you want, but you can never tell me that I'm not for my people. Because I am. I do. I may not be out there doing the groundwork. You know what I'm saying? But I'm doing enough work by being on social media and by being able to share some information. And I have people that reached out to me and tell me thank you. My people done reach out to me and told me personally in the inbox, thank you. Thank you for giving book recommendation. Thank you for this information. Thank you. I had people come on my YouTube channel and say, thank you for sharing this information with me. I had one person that was in college. I think they was going to school for psychology. And I did a video about, who was it? I think it was Dr. Robert Williams. One, the founder of the Association of Black Psychology. I did a video on that. And I had a person that was going to school for psychology reach out to me, put on the comment section saying, thank you. I didn't know anything about this. Now I came across your video. I found out about this information and I want to thank you for it. That's why I do it for. I want to be able to make sure that our people get to the direction they go. I don't care about the popularity thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be wealthy off of this. Because there's a lot of misconception going on. There's a lot of misinformation going on out here. And it's only fair to make sure that our people get what they need, know what they know. So that way they can be able to go and study these things for themselves and be able to pass it on down to their loved ones, or be able to have a conversation amongst themselves. That's what it's all about. Knowledge, cipher knowledge. That's what it's about. So as you see the title, as African descended people, we need universal knowledge. We need to study epistemology as African descended people. We do. And I'm not going to change that narrative. I'm not going to change that paradigm. I'm standing on that. We need that universal knowledge. And if I had some brothers and sisters right now, they will agree with me. Yeah, you're right. We need universal knowledge. We need that. Let me go to the comments. Anytime there is an attempt to self-correct, there will be those that want to derail the process. Please don't waste time explaining. Continue doing what you are doing to self-correct. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jamin. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I don't have to address this, but I felt like it was needed. I felt like it was needed. I felt like I had to get on here. But you're right. I don't have to address these comments. You're right. I don't have to speak on it. You're right. I don't even have to address these individuals. Let them say what they want. But at the same time, I want to clear things up. I want to make sure people get a better understanding of what my position is and what my purpose is. Brother Umi put, thank you, Tiffany, for all your hard work. You are welcome. And I appreciate you for coming on here, watching my channel and supporting my channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it a lot. I appreciate those subscribers who've been coming through and those in the past who no longer watch my channel. I appreciate them as well. I do. Because y'all didn't have to come here, but y'all did. And that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Let's see. Peace, Brother Mikey. How you doing, Brother Mikey? Peace to you. Thank you for coming through. I really appreciate y'all so much. I really appreciate the support that y'all been giving me on this channel. That means a lot. It really does. And I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. It really means a lot. Because it wasn't an easy journey to get where I'm at today. It took a lot of dedication. It took a lot for me to actually do this. So if I inspired y'all and I gave you guys something to look for or give you some kind of hope, I appreciate it. Because that's what it's all about. It's about me inspiring people. It's about me giving people hope. I thank y'all for that. I really do. All right, you guys. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and log off of here. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I hope you guys be safe. Until next time, peace and power and elevation be to all of you. and I will stay connected with you all. I will make sure that I give you the subjects that I want to discuss or whatever I want to talk about, and I'll keep y'all posted on that. So until then, y'all have a great evening and peace. All right. Peace and power.